Leandria Johnson sat down with Kandi Burruss, and what came out of that conversation was more than just an interview. It was raw. It was emotional. It was the truth of a woman who had seen both the brightest lights of fame and the darkest shadows of pain. From her early years in Florida, to her rise on Sunday Best, to her public battles with alcohol and grief, Leandria has lived a life that is full of lessons, heartbreak, and survival. This conversation was not just about her music, but about her demons, her struggles, and her fight to keep standing when life kept trying to knock her down. Leandria shared that she was born in Orlando, Florida, but much of her childhood was spent in a smaller town called Palatka. Growing up, church was her world. She was a preacher's kid, and like so many children who grow up in the church, her life was structured by rules, discipline, and the constant presence of faith. Her grandmother was the strong matriarch of the family, and she did not play when it came to raising her children and grandchildren with values. Leandria was the oldest child, and while she followed the rules, her younger brother was the one who pushed boundaries, sneaking out, going to clubs, experimenting with smoking, and drinking. Still, even with all the temptations of the outside world, Leandria remained grounded in her church upbringing. From a young age, her gift was undeniable. She had a voice that could move hearts, a voice that could stir souls. But before the world knew her, before the lights and cameras, she used that gift in small ways. She sang at kindergarten graduations, preschool ceremonies, and, of course, she sang in her father's church. Music was not just talent for her, it was purpose. She even worked as a certified teacher in her mother's daycare, preparing young children for kindergarten, and every now and then, she would be the one singing for their little ceremonies. That was her world before fame found her. The turning point came with Sunday Best. Leandria never even intended to audition. She loved the show. She had watched the first 2 seasons, just like everybody else, but she didn't see herself competing. Life, however, pushed her in that direction. At the time, she was renting a home, but her landlord was not paying the mortgage. Without warning, she and her children were kicked out, left with nothing but garbage bags full of clothes and whatever they could grab in the rush to leave. She returned to her parents' house, broken, displaced, and unsure of her next move. That's when her best friend encouraged her to audition for Sunday Best. At first, she resisted. She didn't even feel stable enough to think about competing on television. But in less than 24 hours, everything came together. A rental car, gas money, travel expenses, even a hotel room. All of it was provided. So she packed up and drove 11 hours from Orlando to New Orleans, chasing a chance she never thought would be hers. She was about 25 years old at the time, already a mother of 3. Her youngest was only 8 months old. She wasn't married, and she wasn't in a relationship. She was raising her kids with the support of her parents, carrying the heavy weight of responsibility and survival on her back. When she first stepped onto the Sunday Best stage, it was a world she had never experienced before. The bright lights, the cameras, the huge crowd, the pressure of learning new songs in a short amount of time, it was all brand new. She came from a background of church songs, call and response hymns, and congregational singing. Learning worship, music from artists like Fred Hammond, or even singing something like Stevie Wonder's classics, was a challenge because she had not been exposed to much of it growing up. She had to sneak and listen to certain types of music, but still, her gift carried her through. The judges saw something special in her. The audience felt it too. She was not polished. She was not trained in the traditional sense, but her voice was raw, powerful, and drenched in emotion. It was undeniable. Soon, people began to call her the voice of a generation. That title was both an honor and a heavy burden. She was standing on stage with gospel legends like Kirk Franklin and Mary Mary, and it was surreal to her. On one hand, she felt unworthy, asking herself, how did I even get here? On the other hand, she knew that this was her destiny. Still, the pressure weighed heavily on her shoulders. Behind the stage lights and applause, Leandria was fighting, battles that most people could not see. One of the hardest battles came in 2016, a year that changed her life forever. That was the year she lost her younger brother. He was not just her sibling, he was her best friend, her companion, the one who truly understood her. As the oldest child, she carried a lot of responsibility. But her brother was her balance. He was the one who believed in her dreams, who supported her, who saw her gift long before the world did. He was by her side when she auditioned for Sunday Best. He even drove her to her audition, watching her step into the destiny he always knew she had. Losing him was devastating. It was not just grief, it was a wound that shook her entire being. She admitted that she was not able to be there in the hospital when he passed. She was away, and by the time she heard the doctor's words, "He's not going to make it," she was desperately trying to get back. She and her youngest brother called in to speak to him on the phone, and after hearing their voices, he passed. That broke her in a way nothing else could. The pain was unbearable. On the day her brother died, Leandria turned to alcohol. Not just a sip, not just a glass, but drinking so heavily that her body could not handle it. She said she took 17 shots back to back, almost as if she wanted to disappear with him. The pain of losing her brother made her feel like life itself had ended, and she blacked out. She woke up in a hospital bed, handcuffed because she had lost control. That day marked the beginning of a long, difficult battle with alcohol. The world would later see her struggles play out in public. Her gift was undeniable, but so were her demons. People judged her, criticized her, and called her out, but very few understood the depth of her pain. To her, alcohol became a pillow, something to lean on when the grief felt too heavy to carry. She was not just drinking for fun, she was drinking to escape, to numb the pain that wouldn't go away. Kandi Burruss sat across from her, listening with compassion, asking the hard questions but giving Leandria the space to tell her truth. This was not a gotcha interview, and Kandi made that clear. She reassured Leandria that if anything felt uncomfortable, it could be cut out later. But Leandria didn't hold back. She spoke with honesty about the ups and downs, about her struggles and survival. This is where the most powerful question came. Kandi asked, "When history writes the name of Leandria Johnson, will it say you were destroyed by your demons or that you overcame them?" That question lingered in the air, heavy with meaning, because that is the heart of Leandria's story. She is a woman who has seen both sides, the glory of success and the agony of loss. She has been celebrated on stage and broken in private. She has been praised as a voice of a generation and criticized for her struggles. Yet through it all, she has continued to stand, to sing, to share her gift, and to tell her truth. Her story is not one of perfection. It is one of survival. It is one of a woman who lost her brother, leaned on alcohol, faced her demons, and yet continues to push forward. Leandria shows us that overcoming does not always mean never falling. Sometimes overcoming means standing, back up every time you fall. Kandi's interview gave Leandria the space to remind people that she is more than her mistakes. She is more than the headlines. She is a mother, a sister, a daughter, and above all, a survivor. She has lived through storms that would have destroyed many others, but she is still here. And so the answer to that question is still being written. Will history say she was destroyed by her demons, or that she overcame them? Only time will tell. But from the way she continues to sing, the way she continues to speak, and the way she continues to fight, it seems clear that Leandria Johnson is still choosing to overcome.